Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is called the Strangelove Negroni. And it is the featured cocktail in today's episode. We're going to start with a mixing glass or shaker with ice. To that we're going to add gin, 50 milliliters, boys and girls. That's basically 1.5 ounces. Yep. Next, Campari. Not my favorite. Going to give it another shot. 40 milliliters. Which is basically, I don't know, a little more than an ounce. Then 40 milliliters sweet vermouth. Then we stir. Stir until well chilled, boys and girls. Then we strain into a tumbler filled with ice. I'm going to add some more ice. There we go. And then we garnish with an orange slice. And there you have it, boys and girls. The Strangelove Negroni. It's better than the last drink we had with Campari. A little bit. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See ya.
Do you believe in love at first sight? It happens all the time in the movies. And this week's episode of the Scary Spirits podcast, Lust for a Vampire, is no exception. In fact, it happens more than once, almost simultaneously, to multiple people. Love connections are everywhere. Maybe we should change the saying to lust at first sight. Now that is something I can get behind and truly believe in. Cheers.
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, I'm Greg.
Hi, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different but highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing great. How are you, Greg?
I'm okay. Thanks for asking.
It's what we do.
So this week we're going to try something different, Karen.
Oh, no. Change is hard, Greg.
We're going to rearrange things a little bit. We're going to change it up.
Okay.
So just going to change the kind of the format, but not really. It's still the same
stuff, just in a different order. All right. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And friends and listeners, let us know if you like it better or worse. info@scaryspirits.com.
Blame Greg. I had nothing to do with
Yes.
this.
If you hate it, email Karen@scaryspirits.com. If you love it, email Greg@scaryspirits.com.
I'll gather up my emails like a petition.
All right. I believe this film was it my choice?
Oh, yes. I don't think anyone will be surprised that you chose this movie.
Okay. So the film I have chosen is a Hammer film, Karen.
Shock number one.
Mm-hmm. Called Lust for a Vampire.
It's appropriate.
It is. And it's part 2 of the Karnstein trilogy, of which we've already done the other 2.
Oh, I was thinking it was part 3.
No, this is part 2. This is.
Do you know what they are in order? So in case anyone wants to listen in order.
Yeah, so the first one is Vampire Lovers, starring the lovely Ingrid Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second one, Lust for a Vampire. The third one, Twins of Evil, is the third one.
You don't have to listen in order, certainly. They don't really connect.
They have no connection other than the same names.
You're right.
Same family names. Different actors, different actresses play the characters.
Different storylines. It's all different.
Yeah.
Just Karnstein
trilogy. And Karen, the reason I chose this film is that it was released on September 2nd, 1971. And this podcast, if you're listening to this on release day, it is September 6th. So celebrating the anniversary of its release in 1971, Karen, 52 years ago.
It's very 70s, that's for sure.
Yeah, the film, the copyright on it said 1970. So I guess it was filmed in 1970, but wasn't released until 1971. I can't imagine what they waited for. Why they held on to it for so long. I would think you'd want to get this right out there into the public's eyes.
Absolutely.
I do have a cocktail as well, Karen.
Excellent. What's that?
It is called the Strangelove Negroni.
You know, I couldn't figure out why you picked that. And I was watching the movie and I'm like, okay, whatever, I guess. So I'm thinking I'm going to get you. Like, you didn't really pick a drink that goes with the movie. And then all of a sudden,
there it is. Hit you right over the head, doesn't it?
I started laughing for multiple reasons. But the drink definitely goes with the movie.
It is themed.
How do you make that drink?
So we're going to need 50 milliliters of gin, 40 milliliters of Campari, 40 milliliters of sweet vermouth, and a orange slice for garnish. We're going to pour the ingredients into a mixing glass with ice and stir until well chilled. I don't know why you don't shake it. Maybe you don't shake vermouths or wines or whatever.
Maybe. I don't know.
And then you strain it into an ice-filled tumbler. So I don't understand. Why can't you just drink it out of the mixing glass filled with ice?
I don't know.
Whatever. And then garnish with an orange slice. Then you serve.
I just really don't like Campari.
This is better than the last one, though, I think.
I tried. I even put less in and I can still taste it.
I can taste it. I think the sweet vermouth helps in this one.
Probably.
All right. Should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own Strangelove Negroni now that you have sold it to them so heavily?
Of course.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
All right, Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us?
I do.
Go on. Tell us all a story about lust and vampires.
A seductive vampire enrolls at an 1800s exclusive finishing school and finds an abundance of victims among the staff and students.
Thank you, Karen, for that brief synopsis.
Pretty accurate.
Yep. Right. So typically right here, we would go into the film and
go through it scene by scene and talk about it. But this time, as I said, we're going to switch it up. So I'm going to ask you right now, Karen, what were you pleasantly surprised by, or did you really enjoy in this film? What did you love about it?
The sets are nice.
Yes. And go
Pretty
on.
much all I got. That's all I got.
That's all you got?
Yeah. What did you like about it?
Well, I was going to say it's a Hammer film. So
Yes.
the sets are going to be good or great.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, the costuming is very good too. This one wasn't as much, I don't think. This one feels like they cheaped out a little bit on the costuming.
And the hair and makeup is definitely 70s. Even though they tried to make it 1800s, it just comes across as 70s.
No, but I think it's done well.
Well, yeah, all the girls are pretty, if that's what you mean.
Yes, it's a Hammer film. All the girls are beautiful.
They have Hammer glamour. Yeah,
Acting was fair. Some were better than others. Overall, I think it was pretty good.
Really? I didn't think so at all.
You didn't like the guy who played Lestrange? You didn't think he was very good?
I guess he was okay as the actor. I think the script was just, I didn't like the story. I didn't like well, I guess we're going to move into what I didn't like.
All right, go on, Karen. Go ahead.
One thing I have right off the bat, and I've had this complaint before with, I don't even know if it was one of these films, a Karnstein film.
Karnstein. I guess it is Steen, isn't it? No, it's Stein, right?
That's
why I was getting confused. It's Frankenstein, Karnstein. I think it's probably Stein.
But they have the vampire go into a very small area where everybody knows everybody, and they start knocking them off. And it's so obvious that something's happening.
That's true. I mean, the villagers would know that lore, right? They know all about the Karnsteins. The castle's right on the hill above their little town, right? Karnsteins. But
even so,
this is set in a boarding school or a girls' school.
Even if without the lore, if girls start disappearing and being found murdered over and over and over, there's only like 10 people there to start with, and people start getting knocked off or disappearing. You got to roam far so no one knows. I don't know. I just wonder about that.
Yeah, well, the bodies weren't turning up one after the other.
Disappearing though, and they kind of were, even in the village.
Just one girl.
Two.
She was first one was never found, I don't think. She was missing.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, the townsfolk are suspicious from the beginning, right?
You're right. They know the lore. I didn't think the acting was really that good. I didn't mind Lestrange, but I didn't think what's her name? Because there's Carmilla and there's
Marcala.
I didn't like her as the main actress.
Okay.
And the usual complaints, the blood doesn't look like blood.
No, it doesn't.
And
Ute Stensgaard is Marcala. Ute Stensgaard.
She's beautiful. And also all the girls in the finishing school look about 30. It's just kind of like, okay.
I don't think they look 30. They look in their, they
look in mid-20s. There were
they look 20s.
Some were pushing it into 30, but they didn't have main parts.
I thought the lady who played the principal, Miss Simpson, I thought she was good. She was annoying, but she was a good actor or actress.
There's kind of I don't know, a lot of tropes in this one.
And what was weird, what I thought was weird anyway, the lady who played the Countess, she has like the OBE after her name. Like, what does that mean? Order of the British Empire or something like that. So she's supposed to be a really good actress. I didn't think she was very good in this. But
she could be a stage actress or something.
She is. She is a theatrical Shakespearean actress, but
that makes sense.
So yeah, it helps. It helps when the material is Shakespeare.
Well, she did, and she carried herself like a countess. You could tell the acting maybe wasn't perfection, but she definitely held herself in a different way, I think, than the other actors.
She didn't seem like she knew how to do horror, I guess.
Did you not like anything about it?
Lots of the acting wasn't good. Like I said, I kind of agree with you about you. I mean, she was, bless her heart, she was.
She wasn't terrible, but she really couldn't carry the film. I think if someone else had been in that role, it might have been a little better.
Well, of course, they asked Ingrid Pitt to do it, and
Is
she
she 50 at
declined.
this point?
Don't know, but this was her first and last leading role.
She would have been fine as one of the supporting actresses, I think. I don't feel like she carried it well.
As I said, the costumes, some of the costumes look like something you would get at Spirit Halloween.
I agree. Either they didn't fit well, or because it's hard to tell. As a photographer, I will tell you, you can photograph cheap things to look expensive, right? Because you can't really touch it, feel it, so you can light it so it looks fancy, even if it's not. And I think, I don't know why they looked like that. I think maybe they didn't fit well or something.
I think because they were all like satin and shiny, and that's the way like cheap costumes look.
Maybe. I do have a question before I forget, though. Were those Christopher Lee's eyes? Are they featured
I have
in this
my
movie?
notes. I'm like, those are Christopher Lee's eyes.
That's what I just want to say, a cameo by Christopher Lee's eyes.
Nowhere, I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, I looked a little, I couldn't
Lee's.
find it, but those were his eyeballs.
Oh, I know they had to be. They weren't that counts. I know that. And that's another thing I didn't like. I didn't care for him much. His makeup was pretty bad, I thought. His hair and everything. It was very fake looking, whatever they call the
Widow's Peak.
widow's peak. And
He's motioning on his forehead. I'm not reading his mind.
Yes. And the guy who played the girl's father, Susan's father, that we don't see till the end, I kept being distracted by his sideburns.
Me too.
They looked fake.
I agree.
He was a good actor, though.
Yeah, he was good in that role. I will say I'm glad they included that. They didn't just let the girl disappear and nobody said anything.
Nobody said boo
so
about
that
it.
was a nice touch. I will give them that. And there were a couple of shots that I thought were pretty or well done. So there was some good cinematography. I was going to say
a lot of the shots were good, especially, well, we know that night scenes aren't really done at night, but they had good filters and it looked
better than a lot of other films look. Yeah,
convincing enough.
That it was dark. And I actually noticed that. So it wasn't horrible all around. I think that whoever filmed it was above the movie material, I will say.
And actually, Peter Cushing was going to be in this too, but he had to decline because his wife was sick and he was taking care of her at the time. He would have helped immensely. I wonder what role he would have been.
The inspector or Lestrange?
No, he was going to be the schoolmaster, Giles.
Oh, okay.
Which would have been a good role for him, I think. He'd have crushed it. Anything else you didn't like or did like?
No, I mean, it's a Hammer film, but I think they are deteriorating into boobs and blood at this point. I think they've done much better than this.
Yeah.
And it just seemed gratuitous. I know you like your boob count. I don't mind it, but it just seemed like I was waiting for a pillow fight or something. Like, let's, put a bunch of girls together. And the other thing I didn't like, speaking of the girls, is when they would go outside, it was like they were playing like they were little kids, giggling. And it was just weird. One, they looked 25. And then two, when they would go outside, they would giggle and almost play Ring Around the Rosie or something. I don't know. It was such a weird kind of.
Well, maybe that's what they did in 1830, Karen.
I think it's what men think women do at finishing school or something. I don't know. But it's deteriorated to the point where it's definitely a Hammer film. It has all the aspects of a Hammer film, but I think they've done better in the past, where they've incorporated all these things, but it's still been a decent movie. And I just felt like this was like, okay, time for the boobs. Okay, let's throw some lesbian undertones or overtones in this one. Let's throw that in there. Okay, now let's bring in the terrible blood and bring it just, maybe I'm in a mood, but this one was not for me.
And
I thought Twins of Evil was much better.
So I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
Which of the three do you think is better? Because I've read like where like people have said that they think this is the better of the first two.
Maybe Ingrid Pitt, although I do enjoy
I mean,
her.
that was heavy lesbian stuff in that one. And Vampire
Well, this
Lovers.
one is even
It's
more of
not,
that.
no, I don't think it is. Not as much as Vampire Lovers.
I think Twins of Evil was more fun.
Twins of Evil is better, and probably for none other reason that Peter Cushing's in it.
Well, but I think the dichotomy of the twins, having one evil, one not, and having
Right.
that sibling kind of rivalry where one would let one rot in jail and like there was more
Yeah, I agree.
meat to the story somehow. It was just, there was a little bit of witchcraft in there. There were,
Lots of burnings of witches.
yes.
The witch burnings.
I mean,
I agree.
this one just had all the things just thrown together in a way that was kind of silly.
And I read in the Hammer Glamour book, Karen, that I have, that and this is the only place I've seen this, is that Ute Stengard says she was shocked when she watched the film when it was released and it was not her voice.
Oh,
But
really?
I haven't seen anywhere it says that it's not her voice.
I saw a dubbing
Other than that.
technician or something in the credits, which
Yeah,
I thought
the,
was kind of weird, but I thought whatever.
The guy who played the Count, it's not his voice. So he was overdubbed. I did read that. But according to the Hammer Glamour book,
It's not her voice.
She was as well, yeah.
I did not notice either
I
one
didn't
of
either.
those.
And I read that beforehand. I was trying to watch, to see if I could tell if it was her voice. But she's Danish, I think.
I think I might have liked that better.
She's
would have given her more of
And,
the
yeah.
countess, the royalty kind of.
But they said maybe that
Maybe you couldn't understand some of the words or something.
her heavy Danish accent. I don't know. And also, she is still with us, Karen. And
Nice.
She is now a national account director for one of America's biggest radio networks.
Oh.
So she the whole film thing kind of disenchanted.
Well, I guess if I watched the film and it wasn't my voice, I would kind of get the impression that maybe that wasn't for me. If they're going to overdub my voice, I'm probably not going to get.
Well, that's what she's
starring roles.
That's what she kind of what she says. Like she wish she would have known. If someone would have told her, you know what I mean, she could have concentrated on something else, right? But she's a beautiful girl. So,
well, she definitely could have been in the background of many a film with slight speaking roles or something.
But if I was kind of surprised this is her only Hammer film.
But if they're going to have to overdub her entire dialogue, that's a lot of work, especially back then.
Yeah, but like you said, she could have had a supporting role in many other Hammer films.
True, but if you come out of the gate as the star, you don't want to go.
Yeah, well, she didn't come out of the gate. She did. This was her first one with Hammer, but she had done a few films before this, and she did a few films after. But this was her only leading role, and her only Hammer film.
Gorgeous, though.
Yep, blonde-haired, blue-eyed,
big blue eyes.
Anything else?
Not really.
What'd you think of the soundtrack, Karen?
It's interesting.
Yep. I can't really remember any of it except for that song.
There is a song, what he's talking about. We should just mention it, I guess.
Yes.
It doesn't sound 1800s.
No, it doesn't.
It's a groovy 1970s song that plays. I mean, I actually laughed when it came on.
Called Strangelove.
Strangelove. It's just.
That's where we get our cocktail.
As I mentioned, I didn't know where Strangelove was coming into this film. And I thought, well, okay, maybe a vampire human. Maybe we'll get to that. And then all of a sudden that song came on and it's ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's bad.
All right, Karen, what kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film?
We should play that at the end. Wonder if you put a snippet on the end if we'd get in trouble.
I don't know. I mean, it says the song Strangelove, I'm reading from Wikipedia, boys and girls. The song Strangelove was recorded for the film by Tracy, a teen singer from Wembley, and released as a 7-inch single. And Tracy is not linked in the Wikipedia story. So she has no
my.
Wikipedia page. So I assume it's a she. It is a she. She sounds like a she.
Yeah, it's risk it. Put a little at the end just so they get a feel for it.
All right. What kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film, Karen?
I think it's a 4. Do you want to argue with me?
I'll agree. I'll say it's a 3.5, but
I think we gave Twins of Evil probably a 3, and I think that one's definitely better than this one.
and just as a reminder, boys and girls, the more cocktails ratings, the worse the film. So 5 is our worst, right? So this is a 4.
I just think it's a little lower than a normal Hammer film. There are certainly things that you expect in a Hammer film, and this has all of them in it. It's just not as good as some others.
Gave Twins of Evil a 3 cocktail rating, and it is better than this. So I agree. This is a 4, 3.5, 4, whatever.
So now everybody's going to listen and find out why we gave it a 4.
Yep. But before we do that, I do have one review from the Time, Karen.
Oh, from the Critics' Corner?
Yeah.
Is it Roger Ebert?
No, it is not.
Oh, okay. Greg likes Roger Ebert's reviews.
And I will say also, this has a 5.7 out of 10 rating on IMDb and a 20% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh, that's a little brutal.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. So the only review I could find, Karen, was from the Village Voice.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's not much of a review, really. But I'll read the first, I don't know, most of the first paragraph here. This is from the Village Voice, September 16th, 1971. Lust for a Vampire and The Man Who Haunted Himself at the Penthouse Theater make a nice no-strain double bill, or they would if the projectionist could just get them into focus, without ever scaling the heights of terror. They have a fair share of wit at the expense of plot, which is to say that if neither picture will satisfy the search for a good story, which goes on like the search for an honest man, they are at least worth the candle. With typical self-consciousness, they must show their superiority to the conventions of the genre. The first, by overdoing the sauciness, referring to Lust for a Vampire. The second, by underdoing the meat, referring to the other film. Because a lot of these films were released as double features. But by the same token, you can walk into the middle of either film without suffering much disorientation, and they have complementary vices and virtues. And that's pretty much all there is as far as reviews. The rest of it just goes into, he basically tells the whole freaking plot of the movie. That's it. So there you go. The only review of the Time. I'm curious about The Man Who Haunted Himself now.
That sounds like an interesting.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
Yeah, I must have a sibling.
Stop haunting yourself. Stop haunting yourself.
How would you know that? You don't have a sibling to do that to you.
I watch cartoons, Karen. All right. Are we ready to get into it, Karen?
Let's go.
All right. Lust for a Vampire. Copyright 1970. Released 1971. Did you watch this on Amazon Prime, Karen?
I did.
Rated R is the only thing that popped up on my screen. No other warnings.
Surprisingly.
I was not prepared for all the nudity, Karen. Or blood. Film opens and we see a fair young maiden, I wrote, walking through the woods, carrying her basket. She's leaving.
After she flirts at the pub. Yeah.
We see her. She's leaving the village and she walks through the wood. And we see
almost all Hammer films start in the woods.
I thought of that as it was going on. I thought Karen's going to mention this must be a Hammer film.
She's walking through the forest in a dress that barely holds her boobs in. It was distracting.
I was not distracted.
Oh, I was. Well, there are lesbian undertones, so there you go.
Then we see a figure in black, the rear of a figure cloaked in black in the foreground, and a coach. The figure gets on the coach and rides up to the girl, and she seems happy and pleased to see whoever's in the coach. But
yes, she's offered a ride, so she doesn't have. She's taking her lunch or dinner to her father.
We don't know that she's offered a ride. We assume she is because there's no dialogue.
No, but the carriage stops and the door opens and she
Yeah,
gets in
she
smiling.
does. She gets in and smiles, and then she screams.
Then she's not smiling.
And we have credits, more credits.
There's a wardrobe mistress in the credits, which I thought
I
was
saw that.
interesting. It didn't just say wardrobe and then have a name. It was a wardrobe mistress.
Then we see the carriage hauling ash through the woods. Young girl passed out in the back of the carriage. Gets to the castle, and the carriage driver carries her into the castle. Then we see a cloaked figure and a count, I assume is the count.
Well, the carriage driver brings in the young lady and she is unconscious. There's organ music playing in the background. There's cobwebs everywhere, typical Hammer
It's a nice set.
look, but it's, beautiful. It's always a house I would live in. And it looks like they go into the chapel and he places her on the altar.
Okay.
Well, her whole body's on the altar and her head's hanging off the
Hanging
end.
off, yes.
Yeah.
So then the count gives the cloaked figure a dagger, and the coach driver opens another casket in the room, revealing a corpse.
An old one.
Yeah. Right here, it looks like a corpse. In a minute, it looks like a skeleton. So I'm not sure why that changed. But then the cloaked figure slits the girl's throat and drains her blood into a golden vessel.
Oh, I called it a chalice.
Oh, that's even better. I called it a bowl.
It's definitely a chalice.
I'm making it better as I go along, Karen.
That was a scene. It could have been a lot better, I thought. It was very dramatic. The way she's laying on the altar with her head back, I thought, oh my God, they're going to decapitate her, which I thought would have been brutal. They do slit her throat, but you don't see it. No, you don't see it.
And
but
the bowl or the chalice is very off center.
Yes, it is. So the blood is somehow moving to the left.
So I assume they just cut her
Like
jugular on her, I guess, her left side, right? Because that's where the chalice was lying underneath her.
Just thought they could have done more there without making it gruesome.
No.
They could.
It's worse. It would have been no worse than bite marks with blood coming down them. I mean, they could have liked to have a little stream of blood as they're cutting and then cut down. And
I thought the setup was really good, the way she was positioned. And then I thought, well, they didn't get the payoff from it.
No. So then I wrote the count prays to Satan.
Yes, he does. He does call out to Lucifer in Latin. And no, I won't tell you, although I almost could read
a lot of it. A lot of it was in English, though.
Yes, but this actual summoning was Latin.
Okay. Then they pour the blood onto the corpse. And
then they cover it.
Yeah.
So they pour it on the skeletal skull, almost in the mouth and kind of all up in the head region, right? And then it's like a kid's magic trick. They pull the sheet over the top because you can't watch it. Like I thought, well, they lost another opportunity there, which I guess, they probably don't have the technology to regenerate.
No,
but they've done it before.
They've done it before. I mean, all you have to do is do it in reverse. They've
right. So then underneath,
we've seen Christopher Lee disintegrate as Dracula. They just have to do that backwards.
But the sheets over the top, the skeleton starts to light up, and the blood. Actually, if
veins begin to appear.
It looked like a good
interesting
Halloween prop. Put a skeleton under it's a gauze sheet almost, so you can kind of see through it. Mm-hmm. You can see the skeleton, and then have some sort of.
But it is a skeleton. It's not the same corpse we saw a minute ago.
And there's lights and everything, so it was neat. If someone built it and put it in their yard, it wasn't so great for a movie. But this is where we see Christopher Lee's eyeballs a couple of times.
Yes, that's sure I wrote. Are those Christopher Lee's bloodshot eyes? ?
So I don't know what that
they
meant.
They have to be.
Well, I recognized them.
Yeah. But the corpse regenerates and rises, and we see a very lovely blonde young lady.
Yeah, I almost thought it was the same woman who was on the altar. Blonde, beautiful. It took me a minute to realize it was not. I thought they were somehow pulling her soul and everything into this skeleton, but
That
it's
would have been a
not.
better story.
Yeah, but they're both, because then she'd be the victim, right? Because she was just picked. But then later they say the spirit inhabits other people. So I
Right.
didn't know. Maybe that's what happened.
Nah, that's not what happened though.
All right. Well, I don't know. Would have been better that way.
It would have been. But then they wouldn't have the portrait of
Oh, that's
Camila to compare to Marcala. Be a different
true.
person.
Yeah.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. So we're back in the village and we meet Victor Lestrange.
Nice name for a movie.
And we learn it's 1830.
Yes, and that every 40 years the Karnsteins come back.
Well, the pub keeper or whatever says 40 years ago today were the last time the Karnsteins
Well, and he
were
says,
seen.
and 40 years before that, and 40 years before that.
Okay, yeah. But Lestrange thinks it's a joke. He ain't buying it.
Of course.
But the townsfolk are all very serious. We see them staring very seriously at him.
All the girls are in a state of terror because they prey on young virgins.
Then we learned that Richard Lestrange is a writer and he's doing background for his next novel. Apparently he's a horror writer.
Yeah. Vampires, witches, black magic.
And Lestrange tells him, hey, if you're so scared of Karnstein Castle, I will go up there myself after lunch. Check it out.
They say, just be aware. Don't let strange women entice you. They might be vampires. He doesn't seem to care.
He doesn't.
He's like, I'm all into it.
So he goes to the castle, see him walking through the castle, lots of cobwebs, just like you said. Same set.
Yeah, he's remembering the conversation he had at lunch. All the things, they could use men as their victims. They are vampires, blah, blah, blah. And he finds the fresh blood.
He does.
On the altar.
And then a cloaked figure enters. And then another. And he keeps hearing the words of the innkeeper going, or the barkeeper, or whatever he is, going through his head. And then another. So there's three of them, Karen, and they're kind of like surrounding him, coming towards him. And then a man enters. And we learn that he apparently is the school teacher at a neighboring school for girls, and the girls are on a field trip studying the Karnsteins. Then we go to the school and we see the girls doing physical exercise based on dancing, Karen.
Right before that, the teacher that he meets, what's his name? Giles likes genealogy, and he's doing a lot of research on the Karnsteins. But he also asks if Lestrange is from Cork, and apparently he's got some hoity-toity.
Yeah, he's
heredity. He's heir to something. So that makes him much more accepted
Duke or whatever,
as he
some title
goes along.
Then Lestrange meets Principal Miss Simpson. She tells him he is welcome there anytime, of course, because of his lineage.
Yes.
But his books are not.
They're not suitable
for young ladies. Then a coach arrives with a new student.
Well, so when he arrives, the gym teacher is teaching them exercise based on Greek or Roman dancing. So they look like nymphs out there. They've got very low cut gowns, very high slit on the legs, and they're doing all these moves around like Greek goddesses or something, I guess. And Lestrange is there, and he and the gym teacher make eye contact for a brief second. And I'm sure you know what a finishing school is, but it is a private school where girls are prepared for entry into fashionable society. The name reflects that it follows on from ordinary school and intended to complete the education with classes primarily on deportment and etiquette, with academic subjects secondary.
What's deportment?
I don't know. I thought it was how to carry yourself, but I don't know what the difference between deportment and etiquette is.
Yeah, how etiquette would be like manners and things like that.
Like social skills what I would think was deportment, how to converse and things, but I didn't look it up. I don't know. I just assumed that. It's also known in the US, they generally call it charm school. So it could be dancing, because I know a lot of charm schools teach you to dance, and I myself did not go to charm school. I'm sure everyone would be stunned to find that out.
Then a coach arrives with a new student. And we should say that Lestrange does ask to be introduced to the gym teacher, or
Yes.
Miss
They
Miss
eyeballed each other.
Playfair. Where's her name? Playfair.
The names are interesting. I called her Janet, but
Yeah, I
or
did too.
the gym teacher. But the coach that arrives is open air. It's like
It
a
is.
convertible coach. It has no
It
top.
is with a new student, and it's the Countess and her, I guess, niece,
Niece. It's her
Mercala.
niece.
And Lestrange seems very interested in Mercala, I wrote.
Yes. All of a sudden, Janet doesn't exist. Only Mercala does. No more gym teacher, 100% student.
So finishing school, is that like something girls would do instead of university?
That was my impression. Yes.
Okay. So
Because
they're all like 18.
well, they're supposed to be.
Okay.
But you would be going into high society. So you need to be trained in how to.
They are
They're the elite.
daughters of wealthy.
Yes. So they're going to have to entertain and they're going to have to dance and they're going to have to, make sure everything's proper. Again, not surprising I wasn't in finishing school for all of those reasons, but to run households, elite households, I would say. But yes, 18, and they do not look 18.
Yeah, they're probably 21, 22.
They're older, I'm telling you.
23. But then we see the girls getting ready for bed, Karen, and we see two bare breasts.
Yep, just out of nowhere.
Putting on her nightdress.
Yep.
And the girls are wondering, who was that man there? He was very handsome, talking about Lestrange.
It's pretty handsome, I would say.
And then we see Marcala getting a massage from another girl. I guess it's her roommate, Susan, right?
Yes.
And whatever she's wearing falls off her shoulders, and we see two more bare breasts, Karen.
Yes. Her straps of her gown fall off her shoulders, and she does not do anything to fix them.
Nope.
They get busted a little.
Yeah, they plan to go skinny dipping at midnight, and Susan starts to kiss Marcala on the neck. And then the Miss Playfair comes in, and Susan jumps off the bed.
Chop, chop, get to bed.
Yes.
And they have a plan because Miss Playfair is going to be around. They'll just put pillows under the covers and she'll never know we're gone. That doesn't work.
I thought you didn't go to finishing school, Karen.
That's street smarts right there, Greg.
So then we see Lestrange back in the town, and he's telling the other men about his experience at the castle.
Laughing,
and they're all laughing. The same men who are like warning him and were dead serious about strange women and young virgins or whatever are now laughing like, dirty old men or whatever.
Well, he's telling the story about all the beautiful women up there. Oh,
that he was
they're
afraid of.
vampires. Woo. So everybody's hee-hawing back at the pub.
Hello, boys and girls. Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast. Karen and I really have a great time putting these episodes together. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider taking the time to leave a review wherever you listen. Reviews really help independent podcasts find listeners. The more listeners we have, the easier it is for people to find us. Now, back to the show.
And then we see a barmaid. She goes outside and she sees someone and she goes to kiss them, ? I wrote.
That's what it looked like.
And it's first person, right? So she's coming to the camera.
Yes. She went out to feed the dog.
And then she screams and falls.
She immediately.
And I wrote, she gone. She got bite marks on her neck, but she does still have a pulse, Karen. I could see her.
I could see it too. That's not her fault, though.
No, you can't control that.
No, she can't stop her pulse. She looked pretty dead otherwise.
Then we cut back to Susan.
At the swimming
dipping,
hole.
Jumping, taking off her clothes and jumping in.
Yeah, full frontal.
Same two bare breasts, though. And it's dark. And it's from a distance.
But she dives in.
And then she calls for Mercala. And then Mercala comes in, joins her.
Mercala is late. They agreed to meet at midnight. And she's late.
And I wrote they kiss.
Yes, they do in the water.
And is the Count there?
I think he's watching them.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was the Count or Giles. But we get a quick shot of someone standing there watching, and then it's just a quick shot.
I think it's the Count.
Okay. I think so too, because he reappears like that throughout the film. But this was the first time it happened. So then we see Lestrange dining. I think it's the next day. Yeah, it must be the next day. Dining at the pub.
So we should say before this scene, Lestrange offers in the principal's office to teach English. And the principal says, well, we have an English teacher. He's arriving tomorrow.
Right. Or on Wednesday, I think she says. But
Lestrange is trying to weasel his way into the school.
Yes, he is. So he meets a man named Biggs, who we learn is also an author. And he doesn't really want to meet with him, right?
No, he
tells the innkeeper he does not want to be seated with him. Because the innkeeper said, there's a man here just traveled in from blah, blah, blah.
From England, he says.
But Lestrange learns that he's an author and he is the new English teacher at the school.
Yes, and Biggs says his style is very avant-garde. But the worst thing for an author or someone in the movie business, it's like, hey, want to read my script?
Yes.
It's like, will you read some of my stuff? And Lestrange is like, oh, I'm very busy, very busy. Then he finds out he's the new English teacher at the school, and all of a sudden they're going to be best friends.
Yes, perhaps they should work together on a project.
Which excites this Biggs guy, because I guess Lestrange probably pretty well known, it seems like.
Apparently. He says he's writing a novel now based on Vienna, characters in Vienna, and boom.
He needs some research done, and next thing you know, Biggs is off to Vienna.
Yeah, but Lestrange is at the school telling the principal that Biggs has fallen somehow and injured his legs and had to go to Vienna for an operation because that's the only place they can do it.
Yes.
So he'll be gone for 4 weeks, and he offers his services once again as the English teacher.
So he's dispatched the English teacher and is now taking his place.
Strange is I was going to say strange character, but he's an interesting character, I guess. He's strange.
He's kind of sneaky and slimy a little bit. He's not really all that nice.
And I kept waiting for his redemption or his, you know what I mean, in the end. But I guess they tried to do that, but it doesn't really get there.
No.
So then we see Lestrange teaching English.
And he says to Marcella, who's your favorite contemporary artist? I don't know if he's fishing for a compliment or not. And she says she doesn't know any, but she's read a lot of 18th century work.
Yes.
And the girls laugh at him. And then he says, well, your education has been neglected. You're probably going to need a personal tutor. And then we switch to
Giles
teaching his history class or whatever.
He's teaching the girls all about the Karnsteins.
And no one's listening.
No one's paying attention.
They're passing notes.
Drawing pictures, doodling. Yeah. No one's paying attention except for Marcella. And Lestrange watches from outside the window.
He's talking.
Peeping.
Yeah, and the principal catches him.
And he gets a room at the school. He already asked for one, and he says, yeah. So he's going to be sharing a room with Giles.
But he's like, well, isn't there a room closer? I just want to spend more time with the girls. And then he said, for their education, of course.
Then we see Giles doing research on the Karnstein castle. And he's talking to Lestrange about it, and then he just disappears.
Lestrange is just basically, I'm too cool for you kind of vibe. He's laying on the bed. Giles is working really hard, and Lestrange isn't interested. But yeah, he just disappears. And I said, is Giles the Renfield? I thought, is he helping them somehow? Because he just disappears.
Then we see Susan at the lake again.
Back at the lake.
She's not skinny dipping this time, though.
No, but she goes to kiss someone.
Yeah, she goes to kiss someone just like in the first person, like she's coming to the camera, right? Goes to embrace, I wrote. But then she screams. And right here I wrote, the Count watches.
Yes.
So then we see Marcella returning to the school, and Lestrange stops her, and he professes his love for her. He's loved her since the first time he saw her, Karen. Love at first sight.
Okay. So We always see love at first sight in these movies. So I actually Googled, what's the average time it takes someone to fall in love? Because this has been, what, 48 hours?
Maybe.
Maybe. That he professes it.
Mm-hmm.
It's love at first sight, which pops up often in this movie.
Which is basically the speed of light.
Yes, there you go. You want to guess at the average time for men to fall in love is? I'll tell you, it's in days.
Oh, it's not the speed of light?
No. This is just an average, and I'm sure this was just
an average. Let's see. So
talking to people.
I met my
asking.
wife in 6th grade. Didn't fall in love with her until much later. So don't know.
You didn't pull her hair or anything in 6th grade?
No.
Okay.
Didn't really even converse.
Pay attention
to each other. Yeah. Days
for men.
Wow, I don't know. I'm gonna say 5.
See, I was surprised, but the average time for men to fall in love is 88 days.
Wow.
And while those same feelings of true love, so this is, I think, when someone says, this might be the person for me, not, while I really like them, I might sleep with them or something. That's probably lust more than love. I think it's probably saying maybe this could go and we could get married or something, where you start thinking those thoughts, because that seems like a long time to me. When the first time you say I love you or something, 88 days is almost 3 months. That's I guess that's not too bad. I don't know.
Bad. I guess that's not bad.
Yeah, when you say it like that. So do you think women take longer or less time?
I want to say longer, but I bet it's less.
Go with your gut.
Longer.
It is longer. The same feelings of true love take women 134 days. These are polls. There's nothing scientific about this. They did find that 61% of women believe in love at first sight, and 72% of men do, it does say the surveys were focused on
really.
heterosexual relationships. So you can't, with its lesbian undertones and stuff. I just thought it was interesting that men are quicker to be in love than women. I would have thought it was the other way around for sure. And more men believe in love at first sight than women do. Anyway, he fell in love with her the millisecond he saw her, because he was eyeballing Janet, the gym teacher, thinking, well, maybe, and then boom, moved right along.
Then we see somebody dragging the body of Susan away, and then we see it's Giles, and as he dumps her body into a well.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool shot. Looking up from the well, he dumps her in. Her falling, that was a little much, but the shot of her coming into the well.
It's not Lee Remick falling from the in the Omen.
No, or what's his name in Psycho falling down the stairs. I thought the setup for the shot was good.
Then we see Mercala meeting with Miss Simpson, and I guess they're talking about the disappearance of Susan. Miss Simpson tells Mercala that if anyone asks about Susan, that she is to say she is in the sanatorium.
Mercala was like, I don't know where she is. She's just not there. I don't know. Pretty funny. Which is what you would say, though, to be fair, if you were roommates and you knew each other and she went off to meet someone or something, that's exactly what you would say. I don't know. I know nothing.
And then Miss Simpson and Miss Playfair argue about what to do about the missing Susan. Janet
says you have 48 hours and I'm going to report it. And Miss Simpson is a little, maybe she went off to meet a man. And Janet, the gym teacher, is like, the village is miles from here. Well, there's horse, the man could have come. I mean, I would say as a finishing
Lestrange
teacher,
is walking to the village later.
I know.
So within walking distance, apparently.
And
at least
it's a bunch of beautiful women in a location. I'm sure men are going to be milling around. There's going to be men there.
And they say, we don't know if she was followed. A man could have followed her from her home, whatever. Who knows? But then we see Giles giving the girls a tour of Karnstein Cemetery. And he tells them about the grave of Camilla.
It is neglected.
And he says, you might think that's an odd name, but it was customary for girls of the time to be given a name which is an anagram of their mother's name, apparently.
Couldn't find if that was true or not.
And then the girls all trying to come up with anagrams of Camilla. And one of them finally says, Mikala.
So was Giles trying to tell her that he knew?
Yes.
Okay.
So then right as they're leaving, Giles tells Mikala to meet him back there that evening. He has found something out that is very important. Very important. And we see Giles and Lestrange in the room, and Lestrange wonders why Susan wasn't in his class. Giles says that she has a touch of fever and is in the sanatorium.
And Lestrange is drinking a lot.
He is. He falls asleep.
Yes.
Giles leaves. Back at the Karnstein Cemetery, Mircalla arrives in a mist of Froggy's fog.
Yes, she does, in a white nightgown.
And Giles tells Mircalla that he knows who she is and why she is there. He found a portrait of Carmilla Karnstein and tells Mircalla it looks just like her.
There's a lot of eyeball acting. A flashback to the regenerating skeleton and a long dramatic pause.
And then we see her breasts again from the flashback when
Yes.
she raises. Because in the first scene, we only saw from her from the back.
Yes.
This time we see her from the front. And that's a pretty famous publicity photo from the front with blood all over her like that. So then we see Giles and he holds a cross up to Mircalla.
And she recoils.
She recoils. And Giles turns the cross upside down, which I thought was very clever.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never seen
it
that
before.
Never seen that before.
And he offers to be her servant. Right? He tells her he found the body of Susan and got rid of it.
I've studied your magic. I know the black arts and I want to know more. He means no harm to her. He wants to worship her, be her servant, be a servant of the devil.
And then I wrote, Mircalla bites him on the neck, ? And she leaves into the fog, and he crawls behind her. But I was like, because we've talked about this, right? Vampires apparently can bite with intent. They can turn you, or they can kill you, or whatever. So I was like, what is she? Wasn't quite sure what she was doing.
She bites him and then she leaves because she doesn't bite him viciously. She bites him gently. And I liked the shot of her leaving. It almost looked like she was floating in the Froggy's fog when she left, which I thought was neat. But he's just crawling on the ground, slowly dying, I guess, from his blood loss.
I guess.
Begging her. And that's when you said Peter Cushing might play that role. I couldn't see him doing that. Begging to be her servant. Just that would have been a weird thing to see him. I wonder if they'd have changed it.
Yeah, maybe. Probably would have. I don't know. Again, the Count watches. So then the Countess arrives back at the school, Mircalla's aunt, and the girls find the body of Giles as they're out running around playing Ring Around the Rosie, she said, or whatever.
And giggling. They were like, I don't know, skipping. It was weird. I said the girls are playing like they're 6 years old.
Countess tells Miss Simpson that she is traveling with her personal physician.
Isn't that convenient?
Fortunate?
Yes, that's very convenient.
And we see the physician, and he is the Count, and he tells Miss Simpson that Giles died from a heart attack. He gone.
Yeah, he's like under a tree or something. It was weird.
Under a fallen tree or something.
Yeah.
Then we see Janet. She goes to see Lestrange. She tells him that Susan disappeared and that she is afraid someone else will die. And she asks Lestrange to go to the authorities with her, and he agrees to join her the next day.
She thinks the disappearance of Susan and Giles's death are somehow related. And he's the only one she can talk to.
And we see Lestrange going through Giles's things in the room, and he finds the portrait of Carmilla and sees that it is Mircalla.
He rifles through all the research on the desk.
He goes to the school, and I wrote, none of the doors are locked, apparently, because he walks through several doors to get to the place where Giles' body is, and he sees the fang marks on his neck, the bite mark on his neck. Then we see Lestrange in class. I guess the girls are doing some silent reading because it's very quiet. calls Mercala up to the desk and on the pretense of, going over her essay or some shit. But he whispers to her that he's been going through Giles' things about the Karnsteins and wants to meet her later that evening.
Well, first she says she won't meet him, and then he says, I have some interesting information from Giles. And then she wants to know what he knows, so she says she'll meet him.
Karnstein Cemetery that evening. Lestrange professes his love for her again. And she, of course, all she wants to know is what was in the notes. What's in the notebook?
Yeah.
He tells her about the portrait. Then Mercala tells Lestrange that she is a Karnstein, but her family changed their name. And she wants to know if he thinks she is a vampire. He tells her that he does believe in vampires and asked her to prove to him that she is not by loving him, Karen.
Yes. Because he would die if she loved him.
Yeah. So she says, I could kill you if I was a vampire. I would kill you. Then the song Strangelove plays, Karen, and we see Ute's bare breasts again. And I wrote they have relations, and she cries.
Looks like he makes her very happy. Yes, she undresses. Well, he undresses her. Do you think that she hypnotized him when she got to the school, or you think this is some sort of true love?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because it's a little ridiculous, but yeah, that song made me laugh. Of course they're in love. Of course they are,
Then Lestrange returns to his room to find Janet waiting for him.
She's not happy.
Nope.
She's been waiting hours.
That's right. He tells her that she should not contact the authorities. It is all in her imagination. And she tells him he's changed in the last couple of days. When he arrived, she thought he was an honest and courageous man. And she walks away, and she is in tears as well.
She's disappointed in him.
Then Lestrange looks at the portrait of Mercala or Carmela and goes to bed.
In his clothes. He just lays on top of the bed and falls asleep.
And he dreams of Mercala and Janet, and we see her breasts again.
While the Strangelove song plays.
Again, yes. So apparently Janet notifies the authorities. Inspector comes and begins questioning Miss Simpson. He tells Miss Simpson to write a letter to the family immediately, explaining that she is missing.
And dispatch it with Janet.
And the inspector asks for the death certificate of Giles. And he wants to know where Giles' body was found. Janet says that she will show him. So then Mercala and Lestrange meet again. He wants to know why she has been avoiding him, and they end up kissy-facing.
Since she loved him, she won't talk to him. She won't even make eye contact.
And then we see the inspector looking around the area where Giles was found.
I thought he was going to find Lestrange and Mercala kissing because they're both out there, but no, he doesn't.
And Janet kind of offers to help, and he pretty much says, "Good day." I said, "Good
yes.
day."
Let me do my
thank you.
Let me do my job.
So he finds his way to the Karnstein Cemetery, and then the well where Susan's body is. Cut back to Mercala and Lestrange, and Mercala tells him that the Countess is coming that afternoon and makes him promise not to talk to her about their love. Back at the well,
not to talk to her at all, especially about their love. She doesn't want her to say anything.
And we see the inspector at the well, and he ties a rope off, and he descends into the well.
He did drop a stone in to see how deep it was.
He did. And see if it was dry, too, I guess. He lights a match when he gets to the bottom and finds the body of Susan, all twisted and contorted. Countess arrives, finds out about the letter to Susan's father.
Yeah, she's not happy about that.
No, Countess tells Miss Simpson to write another letter telling him that Susan died of a heart attack and that they have found her body.
Well, she says, well, what should I say? What did she die of? And then the doctor walks in and says heart attack right then. Yeah. So it's pretty rare to have a heart attack in your 20s. But if you were, I mean, obviously it can occur at any age. If you have a heart attack in your 20s, it's usually because of substance abuse or excessive alcohol use, smoking, or high blood pressure. And the risk of cardiovascular disease is now actually increasing in 20 and 30-year-olds in this time. And that has to do with high blood pressure, obesity, and again, those other facts. Substance abuse is a big one. So back then, for sure, it would have been much more rare. They could have picked something else, which they do in a little while, but heart attack seems such an odd one to me.
And then we see the Count at the well with a knife cutting the rope.
Yep. I do think it was smart. The inspector threw the rope down, into the well to climb down, but he made knots every foot or so he could climb back up much easier.
Yes.
Because, rope climb in gym class sucked ass. And so having those knots to be able to put your feet on would have made it a lot easier.
Inspector follows, he gone. Then we see Janet meeting with the Strange again. She tells him she does not trust the Countess, and she tells him she is afraid that he will be the next victim. And she tells him, because in case you haven't noticed, I love you. Or whatever.
Yeah. Just a declaration of love.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell. I don't know how you were supposed to, except for that first day when they were
that first
eyes.
Exchange. That was it for her.
And Mercala is listening at the window. So now she's peeping. So Janet arrives back at her room, I guess, to find Mercala waiting for her at the top of the stairs.
She's back in the school, and Mercala's at the top of the stairs. And there's a ton of eyeball acting there.
And she hypnotizes her.
Janet has a tiny little cross buried in her bosoms that she's been wearing. But she does hypnotize her and make her go up the stairs. I
guess Mercala starts to undo her top and finds the cross and runs away.
It's very shiny, the cross.
So next, Susan's father arrives, and he does not believe that his daughter died of a heart attack. He has his daughter's body exhumed, and he has brought a pathologist with him. He ain't messing around.
Yeah, you know what a pathologist does?
Pathological stuff.
Yes. Studies fluids, tissues, or organs taken from the body. Pathologists often work with a surgically removed sample of diseased tissues called the biopsy. The pathological examination of an entire body is an autopsy. Pathologists are often involved in the diagnosis of illness. So they look at the slides and things to tell you what's wrong with you.
But they exhume the body, open the casket, and the pathologist finds the bite mark on her neck.
And you should know, okay, so the body is exhumed. Susan was at the bottom of the well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the father is saying, exhume my daughter's body. The principal is freaking out because she doesn't know where the body is. She just told the father that Susan was dead. But the Countess is there and saying, no, don't you worry your pretty little head. Uh-huh. You were busy. I took care of everything. So Susan is in the casket that they dig up.
Yeah, the Karnsteins buried her. And the Count watches from the woods with his fake widow's peak. Is that what it's called? Widow's peak?
Yes.
Yeah. It was very apparent here to me. So then Susan's father confronts the Countess.
The pathologist does see the bite marks on her neck.
Countess tells him that Susan died from suicide. She threw herself from the top of the Karnstein castle.
Because the father says, my daughter had severe bodily injuries. And then the Countess says, well, her heart stopped on her way down or something. Right. She threw herself off the top of the castle.
Then we're back in the pub, and the pathologist and Susan's father are talking, and he says it's possible that she died from suicide, but he has no explanation for the bite mark on the neck.
And the Countess does say, well, you're divorced, aren't you?
Yeah.
Blames it on a bad home life as to why she would do that. But yeah, the doc says, I can't argue with that. That could have happened.
Yeah, I can't prove it. She didn't. Right.
Right. Except for the bite marks.
And the townsfolk are all there listening in, and they suspect vampires, Karen.
They say, you don't need a doctor. What you really need is the door swings open and there's a priest.
A priest in red.
Yeah, he might have been a cardinal. I don't know. But I don't know if it was a Catholic priest or not. But he's definitely a holy man. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of, did you ever watch Laverne and Shirley when you were a kid? Do you remember
Absolutely.
Lenny
Yeah.
and Squiggy or whatever.
Yes.
And they would say something like this. Well, you don't need a doctor. What you really need
Hello.
is. Yes. And they'd open the door. It'd be like, that's what it, hello. And it would be whatever, you
It'd be
know.
Lenny
and
or Squiggy.
yes, but they would be doing something that they needed done. It was funny. And that's what I thought of when the door swings open and the priest walks in. It was like, hello, I'm here.
Then we see Lestrange drinking and looking at the notes about Mercala again.
He's drinking heavily.
Yeah. Then the priest meets with Susan's father and the pathologist at the pub. A priest, a pathologist, and a grieving father go into a bar.
Yes. They're conversing.
Yeah. Lestrange goes to Mercala's room.
He's drunk. He's like, he wouldn't pass the test where you had to walk a straight line.
But he's not acting overly drunk.
But you can see he's wobbly.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have gone to her. No, he has to be drunk because he's a teacher. He can't go and pound on the student's wall or door and keep his job. I mean,
I guess
he's drunk. He's not thinking correctly.
But he hears voices from inside the room, Karen.
Yes.
Apparently, Mercala is in there engaging in relations and feeding with one of her classmates.
Who keeps repeating her name. Yeah. Mercala.
And we see another bare breast.
And he's pounding on the door. I know you have someone in there. Open this door. Which, if you did, why would you ever?
All the girls come into the hallway and watch.
Because he's making a ruckus.
It's not cool, dude.
Well, he blew the cover off of that one.
So then we cut to the angry townsfolk.
Yeah, all of a sudden, there's some mob mentality. I don't know what happened.
Torches and getting their pitchforks.
Did the priest rile them up? What happened?
And Lestrange is apparently out of liquor. He's back at his room, and every bottle he pours is empty. So I'm pretty sure he's heading into town to get some more booze.
Yeah.
And we see the angry townsfolk heading to the castle. Lestrange sees them coming towards him, and he hides in the woods. As they pass, he stops and asks one of them what they're doing. And so he says they're going to the Castle Karnstein and going to stake their evil hearts.
Yes, the priest says only a stake through the heart or decapitation will kill them.
Lestrange tries to stop the priest from going, but the angry townsfolk grab him. They all arrive at the Karnstein Castle and as the Karnsteins are getting ready to leave. They're all getting ready to go in their carriage.
And the count just says, too late.
Yeah.
It goes back in the castle. But this is where Lestrange says, Mercala is just a victim. She's a victim in this. You know, it's not her fault. He's defending her.
So then the carriage driver for the Karnsteins bares his fangs and rushes at them in the carriage. And they pull him off the carriage. They stop the horses, pull him down from the carriage, and stake him right through the heart. He gone.
Yeah, I didn't know he was a vampire.
I didn't either.
Because he looked a little queasy when they were cutting the woman's throat in the chapel at the beginning. But
yeah, I thought he was just like a Renfield.
Yeah.
So then they begin to burn down the castle.
And the priest is telling them, stop. No, this isn't going to kill them.
This doesn't work. He
nope.
tries to tell them fire is useless. Angry townsfolk don't listen, Karen.
No, they do not.
And the Karnsteins are in the castle and they stand there. They're not afraid of fire.
Right? They're like, well, we'll just burn, but it's not going to make us die. They're just smiling. This isn't going to kill us.
And Lestrange runs into the burning castle to save Mercala. And Mercala tries to tell him to get out, but the count hisses and stops her.
He kind of controls her a little bit, I think, or something.
He's kind of doing his best Christopher Lee the whole movie.
Yeah, it's not good.
But I wrote, she goes to bite Lestrange, and he
they
pushes
kiss
her away.
first. They kiss, and then she shows her teeth, and he pushes her away. And then she hisses at him.
And then a beam falls from the roof, Karen, and it impales her right through the heart.
A flaming stake.
Yeah, she burns and melts.
Yes, and he cries.
And her body isn't. It's not good special effects work.
No, it's not. But she's gone because she's staked.
So then Susan's father runs in and grabs Lestrange and takes him out of the castle.
Yeah, I don't know why they had a relationship like that he would run in to get him,
I don't
but
know
he did.
But the Count and Countess watch. They just stand there. They don't care. They're going to burn. Then Janet helps Lestrange walk away as the priest prays while the castle
Well, he
burns.
falls into Janet's arms and he just looks at her like they're in love. It was just like,
Yeah, it was
it made me laugh too. Okay.
Janet. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I can be with Janet. It'll be fine. So he's not he's kind of a dick through the whole
He
movie.
kind of is.
And the priest is praying, but we know they're not dead.
Nope.
So they could have had another movie if they wanted. Well, I guess they
Well, they
do after
did,
this,
but
but
it's
it's
not
not.
really a true
No.
sequel. And then we have credits and the end. What'd you think of our Strangelove Negroni?
I don't like Campari, but
Better.
it's not bad. It's better.
The orange slice helps too, I think.
Yeah, and I didn't have that, but I think it's definitely one of the better Campari drinks we've had. If I had to rank them,
I
this
got a
was
whole freaking bottle, Karen. I gotta use that shit
I
up
know.
somewhere.
I'm just saying, of the ones we've had so far, this is the most palatable to me.
I agree.
I like the sweetness with the bitterness. It off plays it a little bit. And I put lime in mine, trying to get some citrus in there, but I could see where the orange would add a lot more flavor.
What did we learn today, Karen? Anything? Anything at all?
This was, could you tell I was reaching in this one? Because
I mean, there's not a lot there to.
there's just nothing there. It was really hard. I mean, Styria was in there again, where they're from, but we've done that one before. It's a place in Austria known for their wine, which I actually
They
remember
did keep
from.
talking about Vienna, but
Yeah, but they're not. There's nothing really. They don't go there or anything. So I was like, eh. So what did we learn? Finishing school, what causes heart attacks in your 20s, what pathologists do, and how long it takes to fall in love. And we got a Lenny and Squiggy reference in there. We got Christopher Lee's bloodshot eyeballs.
True. I thought for sure I would be able to work in a heart reference, but I just couldn't do it.
That Strangelove song. Please try to play it. Get a little snippet.
Because Heart had that song, Baby Lestrange.
Yes.
There, I just did it.
There. Now it's in there. Write it down.
Now we learned a little about Ute.
True.
So by my count, Karen, we had five bare breasts.
So even though if we see them twice, you only count them once.
Yeah.
Okay. They have to be unique.
Yes, 5 unique breasts. As far as I could tell, as far as I could count.
There was quite a bit of nudity in this one.
Oh, breasts. There
was some frontal.
There's...
Both of them dove into the water naked.
It's true, they did, but it was dark and it was from a distance.
But you could tell they were naked.
Yeah, you could.
So you gotta.
Actually, they were naked underneath those when they were doing their little dancing and things. They were all naked underneath because I've seen stills which are much more revealing from the film than what we saw.
Everyone's naked under their clothes, Greg.
But they're not wearing undergarments at all.
No, they definitely were sexy in those gowns in the beginning.
All right, Karen, I believe the next film is your choice. Is it not?
It is.
And what film have you chosen for us, Karen?
I have chosen a film from 1932 called The Most Dangerous Game.
Any reason you chose this film, Karen?
Well, should I spoil it now or you want to wait and find out?
I don't know. Because you didn't originally have this as your choice. You changed it.
I did. Well, I chose it because this movie stars the very lovely Fay Wray.
It does.
And Fay Wray's birthday is 2 days after this comes out.
It is, Karen. September 15th.
You never have enough Fay Wray.
No, I believe I had this on my radar. I think for that very same reason that we're celebrating the birthday of Fay Wray.
As everyone should.
Might you have a cocktail for us? Maybe something to also celebrate Fay Wray's birthday?
Well, it's called the Shipwreck Drink Recipe Number 1. It's from CaribbeanCastaways.com. You're going to need 2 ounces of orange juice, 2 ounces of pineapple juice, ½ ounce of grenadine, ½ ounce of Malibu rum, ½ ounce of Midori.
Or coconut rum.
Okay. Fill a shaker with ice, add everything but the grenadine, shake, strain into a glass, and add the grenadine. Raise the glass and toast, it says.
I can already tell I'm going to like this drink, Karen.
Yeah, it's definitely a Lanai drink, but
I can already tell. CaribbeanCastaways.com. I'm going to add that to my favorites.
they have 52 rum drinks on that
Really?
site, it says.
I'm definitely adding it down.
Or 52 drink recipes.
Oh, okay.
Castaway Cocktails recipe ebook. Lots of island favorites, so I think you would like it.
Probably would. All right, so that'll be next week.
Hopefully there's a shipwreck in there.
It's true. There might not be one.
You never know with me. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
All right, anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
Well, as always, I need to thank our listeners. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Thank you for spending time with us. What about you, Greg? Who do you need to thank?
Once again, I need to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
Music definitely makes the podcast better.
And also, I need to thank the people of the great state of Illinois.
Ooh,
I think that's a new one.
they stepped up.
I don't think I've ever thanked Illinois before. And once again, we did a little different thing today. So give us some feedback.
If you don't like it, yell at Greg. Greg at scaryspirits.com.
Or if you like it, tell me at greg@scaryspirits.com.
Whatever. You'd be all proud of yourself. I kind of like it. I think when you listen scene by scene, I think you can tell what we're going to say at the end. You can probably guess whether we like it or not. So this just tells you right up front.
Yeah, it's more of a true review in the beginning and then a, I don't know, critique.
I agree. Sometimes I remember things in the text that I've written that remind me of things I did or didn't like. So I'll probably miss some of those at the beginning. So you have to listen to be sure to find out what I really didn't like or really did like. Because I'm old, my memory is shot, so I can't remember everything. I'm way older than Greg.
Way older.
Way.
All right. Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Strange love, silently stealing through the night, so concealing two hearts, suddenly feeling strange love.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.